Hello my friends, my name is Lindsay and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome to or welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. Today I will be talking about Christian fiction, clean fiction, and then a bunch of subgenres under those two categories like clean fantasy, clean romance, middle grade, Christian young adult. I have a lot of books to talk about. Not too many actually, I didn't really count, but some are going to be DNFs that I can go through very quickly, and then there are other ones that I don't really have too much to say, so let's go ahead and get started. This is actually going to be my last recent reads of 2023. Yes, you're seeing this probably in 2024, but I'm wrapping all of them up together because I like having them organized together. I don't like having my 23 books with my 24 books. It's weird, but that's how my brain works. So, to wrap up, these are all the books I read in December plus one from November. I will have all the full content reviews linked down below. If they are clean fantasy or just clean fiction books, they're going to be on Goodreads. And there's not as many details, but it still gives you a very good overall thought of what the content of that book will be. And I'm going to rank these in categories so you can skip around on the timestamps if you'd like. That's totally fine. I know fantasy isn't for everyone, and I know not everybody likes other genres. I don't know. Typically it's fantasy I hear about, which, I understand. As someone who wasn't a big fantasy reader, I understand. But now I have discovered different things I like, and it's a really good way to just immerse you into a different world. So I get it, but you can totally skip around if you'd like to. Let's see, what else? Oh, lowest rated from highest rating in the genre. That's not always going to work, though, because some of these genres only have one book. It is what it is. Let's get started. I start with Christian fiction, and for that, the first category is middle grade, and I read Prank Wars by Olivia. Oh, I asked her how to pronounce her last name, didn't I? I have the memory of a goldfish some days, I swear. Jarmusch? I'm so sorry. I'm not sure how to pronounce the author's last name all of a sudden, but I did read it, and I enjoyed it. This is a middle grade series that follows a young girl named Millie, who is actually a princess. Fun times there, but she's at a boarding school in Kentucky that is all about horses, which is great for a horse fanatic like her. This is book 2 in the series, and I think I liked book 1 just a little bit better. This one had a little bit more about the mean girl of her academy, and there's a lot of good lessons with that, but that could be a deal breaker for some families. And also the fact that this one has a lot to do with pranks, because her younger brother is at a boys' academy across the way, and, well, we get the boy-girl rivalry, which I totally bought into that as a girl about her age when I was that age. So I understand it, but at the same time now as an adult, it's like, oh, sweet kiddos. Sweet kiddos, no, don't do this, don't do this. But there is a lot of the boy-girl rivalry and pranks, and that may not be every family's cup of tea. There are definitely lessons learned at the end, so it might be one that y'all read together. For a Christian young adult, I have 2 books, and the first one would be Cloak of Scarlet by Melanie Dickerson. This series I don't think is for me. It's really making me feel like I'm too old for young adult. And I know I'm not. But, yeah, this was not a winner for me. This is technically book 5 in the Daracot Tales series, and I've read all of them, but I gave this one a 2.5 star, mainly because the writing style was very, very simple and felt like it was like for ages 14 to 15, but then their physical attraction was really high for that age, and then it was basically instant love, and I'm not a fan of seeing that at all. I don't want to make this sound like it was over the top, but it was not what I expect from a Melanie Dickerson book, and that really hurts my heart to say. There was a couple parts that I thought were completely unnecessary and like added nothing but words to the count. And it added nothing to the plot in that regard. And I'm not quite sure why they were there. And then they were just so, like, at first they were bicker as they check out the other person. And then they quickly just, like, instantly fall in love. And it's a very attraction-based romance. So it didn't feel the healthiest. There was a good amount of faith content, though, and scriptures mentioned. So that's always nice to see. and why I gave it 2.5 personally. I do want to point out though that this could be potentially triggering for adoptees because Violet, this is a retelling of the Little Red Riding Hood if the cover didn't give it away, and she was adopted by a really good family, but she's constantly referring to herself as a lowly orphan and like very much like making that her identity when she knows not only has she been adopted by her current family, she also has been adopted by the King of Kings. So I had very mixed feelings on this book. I hate to give it such a low rating, but it is what it is. I had incredibly mixed feelings on it. The next book for Christian YA, I do not have my physical copy yet. It is on its way to me. I ordered it after reading it, and that was The Highlander's Victory by Michaela Bush. This is also kind of set in that medieval time period, almost alternate universe kind of period, because there's countries that obviously I've never been a thing, so it's got that fictional fantasy, but it's non-magic. Is there a proper term for that? Because it's like there's no actual history people mentioned, so I guess it would be considered historical fantasy, but there's no magic elements, so I'm not sure if there's a proper word. If you know if there's a proper word, please let me know, but hopefully I did okay describing it. This is book 3 in the Legends of the Lenaria series. I think that's how we pronounce it. Book 1 was that Rapunzel retelling that I really, really enjoyed. It was on my favorites list for the year. And then book 2 I enjoyed a little less than that, but I still really liked it. And this is book 3. Book 2 and book 3 have no fairy tale retelling element to it at all, but book 3 here is very loosely based on the story of Deborah in the Bible, which I thought was really different and neat. But I think really the main element of that is that our main girl is Elsa. How do we pronounce that? I-S-L-A. Isla? They called her Issy, which I thought that was so cute. Her brother and a friend called her Issy, and I was just like, I love that nickname. But she is a warrior, and she was definitely a warrior because I didn't necessarily, like, I liked that element, but at the same time I couldn't connect with her. And she did have her moments of teenage girlness, which would make sense because she was a teenage girl, but then she had lessons to learn because her pride was a little bit much. And this book was actually only 130 pages, and I'm glad it was that length. At first I was really disappointed when I saw that page count, because I've really enjoyed the other two, particularly the first one. But I think this was a good amount. Like, the pacing was very well done for that time. It's definitely setting up for what's going to happen in the later books of the series as they release. And I think that's very interesting. The author has definitely built this very in-depth world because you have all these different countries and there's a history. So on that fact, I liked it, but at the same time, having been a bit since I've read books 1 and 2, I was a little like, who is this? What are we, how are we all connected? And it took me a little bit to remember how everyone was connected in the history and like where the countries were. Is there a map for this series? I'm just gonna wonder out loud because I need a map, and I don't feel like book 1 or 2 had that. I need to double check that because I really would like a map for this series. I think that would help a lot, and I just love a good map. Anyway, but book 3 was different, just very different from the other 2 books because we have her perspective only. There is no romance in this book. There's a couple hints that there could be in the future, maybe for this main girl, but currently none at all. So it was just a very different read because of that and her being a warrior and just the details, because like she is a warrior, she does kill people, but it's very bluntly written. I like this author's writing style. I don't know, there's something about it that I just really like her writing style. One thing I really liked about this book though was the emphasis on the faith content. There's a major importance of light overcoming the darkness, and I just really liked that message. So 3.5 stars for that, and I liked it. It was a really strong faith content, and that was really impressed upon me that this author does well when I read the second book because it had to deal with spiritual gifts, and that was different for what I typically read, but I really loved how she backed it up with scriptures from the Bible, and then even in this book things were definitely backed up from the Bible, and I really liked that aspect. It was good. I look forward to reading the rest of the series as they release. It is a really gloomy January day as I film this, so I'm sorry the lighting keeps going kind of back and forth. It's good, it's great, it's terrible, it's horrific. Sorry about that. It is what it is. We're going to continue on with contemporary books. The first book for the contemporary Christian category is An American Immigrant by Johanna Rojas Vann. I'm so sorry if I said the name incorrectly. My Spanish is so rusty and I can't roll my R's at all. I've never been able to do that. I took years of Spanish and I still can't roll my R's. It's kind of an outrage. I have tried to film about this book so many times now and I'm just stumbling and stuttering through it because I don't really know how to explain it. I'm going to try my best. We're going to make this the final take. I'm going to try my best. Our main girl in this is Melanie and she's 25 years old and a journalist in Miami. And see, I got that part, and then from here on out, it gets tricky. So she is Colombian American and has never really felt a connection to her Colombian heritage, much to her mother's dismay. And she gets assigned to go to Colombia for a story with her work about the political unrest of the country. And she's not thrilled about it because, like I said, she doesn't really speak the language, she doesn't really care about different things, but it's definitely an eye-opener for her when she's there. And I don't know, there was different parts. The faith content was super duper light. I think those who relate to the story or have a connection to Colombia would probably like it much more than I did. I had a couple different things that I have different opinions on that were mentioned in this book, so it was a little awkward in that regard. There also, the faith content was really light. I just said that. But here's the other thing that I thought was kind of weird, is we have God's name taken in vain, like 3 different ways, a few different times in Spanish. And I thought that was really weird. Like, they're very common phrases, and like I hear them living in Texas. I hear them almost every time I go out. And taking years of Spanish, I was like, I'm pretty positive this word means God, and yeah, that's basically the equivalent of saying, oh my God. So I double checked with a lot of Spanish speaker friends. Thank you to all my friends who reached out on Instagram to verify what I was thinking was correct. I so appreciate y'all for doing that. And yeah, there was taking God's name in vain, which in another language, but that still counts in my opinion. That still counts. So I don't know, that was like a major negative in my eyes. And Melanie was kind of like, it took 50% of the book for me to like her, because I was so disappointed as someone who knows how important it is to be able to speak a second language, and that's just the coolest thing ever. Y'all, that's so cool. I could tell you so many stories. But because she didn't see that, she was very ashamed of her heritage and the culture and everything. And I just thought that was so sad, and it took 50%, really, for her to like realized, like, hey, this is an awesome, cool blessing. Quit looking at it as a burden. And I really did want to shake her a few times. The problem I really have with this book, though, is that this felt like such a personal story. Like, if you told me this was the author writing her own story, I would believe you, because it felt so personal. And I feel bad giving it a low rating because of that. But it is a book. You publish a book, you get ratings. That's how this industry works. So I gave it a lower rating because of all that, and there was very light faith content. I don't like that God's name was taken in vain. It was overall clean, and I could see like high school age girls maybe liking it. And especially if like you have a connection to Colombia or you have an immigrant family yourself, maybe you would relate to it more. For me, it was kind of a miss. My second book for contemporary Christian books is a reread, and that is Every Bride Has Her Day by Janice Thompson. This is book 3 and the final book in the Gone to the Dogs. I just about said Gone to the Dogs. Obviously, I have talked about that series a lot, as my dog barks. The series is the Brides with Style series, and it is a trilogy, so this is the final book. And I've been slowly rereading this trilogy over the course of 2023, and it's just such a fun series. If you like the first book in the Gone to the Dogs series, Off the Chain, you might definitely check out this series. There's no mysteries, but the characters and the humor are very similar, just they're thicker. The ending of this book always makes me cry, though, because it's a wedding, and I don't know what is it about weddings that just make you emotional but giddy and like feel like you're gonna cry, but holding your breath and like all of that. It does that, and I just thought that was really fun. I would say the series is more for older high school girls because of some marriage comments, events, kind of comments, hints, that kind of thing. It's a little bit more than her other books, I feel like. I still did really enjoy the series overall. It's very humorous, good faith content. What can I tell y'all about it? That's not a spoiler. The first book is Every Bride Needs a Groom, and everything just gets set into motion when Katie wins her dream wedding dress on the exact same day her longtime boyfriend breaks up with her. What's she gonna do? What's a girl to do? So, you have to read the series to find out, but it's just very humorous. It has that Texas charm. It's just fun. It's just fun. I will say that this is not my favorite series by Janice Thompson. As y'all know, Janice Thompson is one of my very favorite authors. This isn't my favorite. This might be my second or third favorite. I really love the Backstage Pass trilogy, and I hope to reread that in 2024 because it's been a while, and I'm pretty sure that would be my favorite series by her, but this is a good series too for older girls. I have 2 Christmas books, and I'm just gonna put them in here. One was a miss, one was a hit. The miss is not a popular opinion. Okay, here we go. Better Watch Out by Natalie Walters. I think, honestly, this author just isn't for me. This was our Christian Booktubers book club pick of the month for December, and I thought I would give it a try. Even though I'm really not a Christmas book person in general, I don't typically do Christmas books. I just don't think this author is for me. There's a lot of physical attraction and a lot of noticing of like the guy's muscles or her curves or whatever. And then there's also a lot of pop culture references like brand names and celebrities and movies and all that kind of thing. And I just don't really care to read about that. And it's always a lot in her books. Like there's always a lot of mentions of it. And I don't know. This book was not for me. If you agree that this book just wasn't your favorite Christmas book, please let me know, because I think I'm the only one thus far that's rated it low. Yeah, I gave it 2 stars. Not my thing. The main girl was Franny, and she kind of drove me a bit batty because she was just... Oh, how can I explain this girl? She wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, let's just put it that way. And her brother is actually the main guy from one of her other books that I've read. So it was fun to kind of see him and his wife and their family, how it's grown through adoption, which I loved that element so much. And that's probably my favorite part of it because I wasn't really a fan. This is that trope of a small town girl goes to big city, and in this case it's New York, and she ends up having kind of a mistaken identity thing where our main guy is trying to help her brother out because they have a connection in the past of suspense law stuff. So he goes and helps her, but then by doing that, these villains, the criminals of the book, if you will, they misunderstand and think she is their target, so she gets put in danger. And, well, I don't know, y'all. I just didn't really care for it. He kept the truth from her a little longer than I think he should have. And there was just little things here and there that I was just like, okay. I didn't care for it, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's not shocking that I have a different opinion than a lot of our Christian Booktuber book club members for the different books. I don't know, y'all. I review for ages 9 to 19. Keep that in mind. Yes, I'm above age 19, but I didn't really care for this one. I really just think, though, this author isn't for me, and I'm pretty positive I can say I won't be reading any more of her books. My second Christmas book was a winner, and that was Merry Humbug Christmas by Sandra D. Bricker. I will be talking about this one in an upcoming reading vlog. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.25 stars, if I can't, 4 stars, but if I could, 4.25, because it was just so much fun. I actually had this one on my TBR last year for Christmas, and I never got to it. Shameful, Lindsay, very shameful, because I really, really enjoyed this hidden gem. This book is actually 2 novellas, but they're connecting novellas, and like the prologue and the epilogue are like the connection, and it's just so much fun. But it follows 2 best friends, Joss does not do Christmas for multiple reasons. Her birthday is actually on Christmas as well, and so her best friend and her best friend is Reese, who is the main girl of the second novella, so they always do something non-Christmassy, like a trip or something for Joss around Christmas. And well, Reese, her best friend, just got engaged and has to go meet her fiance's family for the first time, and that's the second novella. I will talk about that in a minute because I have thoughts. But Joss goes on their, what was supposed to be a Bah Humbug cruise to Mexico, gets canceled, and she ends up being on the 12 Days of Christmas Holiday Extravaganza cruise, which is basically torture for her. But there's a cute passenger on board. Their banter was the cutest thing. Their feelings did move a little fast, but I mean, it is a novella, so I kind of expect that to a degree. There's faith conversations, and just, it was so humorous. I have tabs all throughout. Can y'all see my tabs? I have tabs all throughout. I think I'm actually going to redo my tabs though into a bright red color instead of this kind of taupey pink color. But it was so much fun, and I finished that one and I was like, wow, the second novella is not going to top this. This was just too cute. Well, I'm here to say the second novella did top it, because if the second novella, which is featuring Reese, and she goes to meet her fiance's family for the first time, if this became a movie, I almost think it could rival Home Alone for laughs, because it was just so insane and humorous, and like all the different things and just the comments. I could just see this like a movie in my head, and it was just so entertaining. It was so much fun. It was just very enjoyable. It truly was. Like, I would have loved for both of these to be full-length novels, especially at least the first one. I wish the first one would have been a little longer because it felt a little abrupt there at the end, but the second one's pacing was really good. I just would have loved to have it longer because I really enjoyed the characters and just the humor, the banter. Both main guys, and both of them were just so cute and so sweet. It was a really good time, so definitely one of my new favorite Christmas books. For DNFs, I have 4. It's kind of the end of the year I get more picky on the, am I really gonna finish this book if I'm not enjoying it? No, I'm not. So, I have 4 books. The first one would be The Wings of Poppy Pendleton by Melanie Dobson. This was my first book by this author, and I'm a little concerned to read any of her other books now. Let me know if you've read any of her books and if they don't have subject matter like this one. But this one is a dual time period, and I just felt so sad reading. Like, this book put me into a funk for a few days. It was just so sad. Certain elements just kind of hit too close to home for me. I got about 50% through, a little more than 50% through. Like, I was sincerely trying because I wanted to see a hopeful ending. But then once I kind of just gave up on the book, I went to the end and I read the end, and I don't think I would have been happy. I sincerely don't think I would have been happy with that ending. To be fair, I don't know if I could have been happy with any ending of this book, because it is about a young girl who went missing in the early, what was this, like 1900s, something like that. Very, very much my time period. But we have the grief from her family, and that this girl has been, nobody knows what happened to her. She has been missing, and she just disappeared. And we see a little bit of her perspective at certain times, so we find out. But it was just so hard to see about a mother grieving the loss of her child like that. Like, that just hits too close to home. I can't do that. And then in the modern time period, we have our girl who actually owns the island that this was set on, kind of inherited it, really. And she finds this young girl who's just kind of appeared from nowhere, and she doesn't know where she came from, and then they all try to start finding out what happened to Poppy Pendleton. And so, trigger warnings for this book: child abductions and kidnappings, abuse from a spouse, both mental and manipulative, parental abandonment, flashbacks to a parent trying to commit suicide with their child, affairs, pregnancy out of wedlock, loss and death of an infant child, hinting to a child living in an abusive situation, and then a lot of grief. So, yeah, this, I couldn't do this. I just couldn't. It put me in such a funk, y'all, for so many days. Like, there was quite a few days and I had to read something happy just to get my mood back. I felt like I was in a terrible mood. It was just really sad. It really highlighted, though, to me, the importance of having a God-focused family, because the historical time period definitely didn't have that, and it was just messy and sad. It was just sad. So that was that book. I don't really want to discuss it anymore because I didn't like it. So moving on. My other 3 DNFs, technically, okay, I attempted and I really didn't push through, but that would be the, what is this series? Bells of Lowell by Tracie Peterson and Judith Miller. Book 1 is Daughter of the Loom. I tried for a few days, and it was tempting to put me into a reading slump, so I just went, no, I'm not going to finish that one, so I didn't. And then I read like the first couple pages, and I was not interested at all in these tangled threads and a fragile design. I just don't think Tracie Peterson's older books are for me. I feel like her co-authored books with Kimberly Woodhouse have a higher potential for me because I like Kimberly Woodhouse's writing style and all the faith content. But so far, this is my second trilogy I have now DNF'd by her of her older books. And I'm not sure, y'all. I'm not sure. There's different little things here and there, but they just feel very old Christian fiction in the sense of the subject matter and the main girl's personality kind of all feel the same. So never mind that. Moving on into historical. So this is my last Christian fiction book, and then all the rest will be clean fiction. But for historical, I have one book, and that is Enchanting the Heiress by Kristi Ann Hunter. We're not going to end this on a great note. I also gave this one 2 stars. This is book 3 in the, what is the series name? Hearts on the Heath series. It's a trilogy. I read book 1 and 2. I liked book 1 decent. Book 2 wasn't bad. Book 3, I really didn't like the main girl in this. Her name is Harriet. She is 30, and the main guy is Jonas, and he is the twin brother of the main girl from the second book, and he's 23. So that was a little odd to me, I'm not going to lie, like that age gap and that she was that much older. It didn't really necessarily matter because the main guy, Jonas, Daisy is going berserk because our neighbor is outside and she's just not a fan. So sorry about that. I'm sorry if you have dogs and they are now barking too. I'm so sorry. I gotta keep filming, y'all. We're losing our daylight. I was concerned about going into this book though because Harriet is such a busybody, if you will, but like in the sense of she lies and manipulates others to do what she thinks would be best for them. And I really just did not care for her for that regard. And also the fact she has been lying to her father for like over 10 years, something like that, about different things. And it just felt so sad to me that she thought she had to lie to him about different things. And I don't know. I liked Jonas's perspective that it's like, yeah, okay, so you're helping someone in the meantime, but once they find out you've lied to them, there goes their trust of you, and they're not going to believe things you say. So I appreciated that he was constantly like, hello, girl, come on. So I appreciated him for that regard. I just did not feel the connection between them at all. And there was just a lot of things that just felt kind of unrealistic for the time period. This is a Regency book. And I don't know, they did a lot of arguing that I think was supposed to be like banter, but it was like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. I kind of wanted to tell them both to stick a sock in it because they drove me a little batty. I'm not going to lie. Especially her. I didn't really care for her. What else can I say? Can I say anything else? Another thing is there was quite a bit of faith content, but it was in the way of Jonas taking scriptures out of context and applying them to his life situation. And he realized towards the end that, oh, hey, wait, I need to look at the Bible as a whole and not just cherry pick things out. I'm paraphrasing, but you know what I mean. And I really did appreciate that he realized that because that was bothering me the more the book went on. But yeah, unfortunately, this book was just not it for me. It was, they just felt so unrealistic, unfortunately. For clean fiction, most of these were on Kindle Unlimited. Not all, but a lot of them are. So the first one was The Heart of Christmas by Latisha Sexton. This was, I'm not rating this book because it definitely passed my comfort level for romance reasons. Like they kissed a lot and it was a lot of details and a lot of noticing and that kind of thing. So like not my thing. Cute plot. of like these kind of sworn enemies-ish. They were friends in high school because her best friend is his stepsister, so they kind of always hung out, but then he did something that ruined her trust, and she's very bitter towards him, and thankfully that gets like nipped in the bud pretty quickly in the book, but it had been a long amount of time, so I feel like they had a lot more communication they needed to be doing with their lips instead of kissing the other with their lips, but nobody asked me. There was faith content in this book though, so maybe it could be considered Christian fiction. I always saw it marketed as clean fiction, so I'm putting it here in this category. He is an injured hockey player, and she is coming back to their small town because her singing career in Nashville didn't kick off. So very cute plot, and they end up sharing a house together for the holidays, and they get snowed in. So it's the forced proximity trope. I always struggle with that word. And so there were cute elements, but there also was a lot of romance and a lot of physical noticing. So like if you know you have a higher threshold for that than I do, based on other books we've both read, you could potentially enjoy this book. I'm not going to recommend it though, and I'm not going to give it a rating. Another clean fiction book I read was Anything That You Need by Mary Carson. I randomly picked up this book because I just wanted a cute, cheesy romance. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It's clean fiction with no faith content, no major language, and a couple hints to sexual innuendos or body parts, which I don't think were necessary personally. But basically in this one, our main girl is 27 and he is 35. So they really promoted it as an age gap trope, but this didn't bother me as much as Enchanting the Heiress's age gap did because of their personalities. This though, it wasn't made to be a big deal, and he wasn't like old, and that's actually about the age difference my parents are, so I don't know. But anyway, he owns a flower ranch, which okay, he won points for that with me. I like that he had a flower field. He ran a floral company. I thought that was really neat. And she is a big time country music singer, and oh, she's a country music singer too. Didn't think about that with the similarities with the Heart of Christmas book. But she has come to just kind of lay low, and he is an awkward fanboy. And that was really cute. I really liked a lot of parts of it. I like the fake dating trope. It had that. He owns a flower farm. He was also very gentlemanly towards her. Like, he opened the door for her. He was worried about her. And like, she has a very healthy relationship with her parents and siblings, which for some reason that feels like a rarity nowadays in the books I read. Like, where's all the happy, healthy family relationships, people? It wasn't overly sexual or physically noticing at all, which I really appreciated. There was a lot of kisses, but honestly they were sweet kisses. Like, they were just cute and sweet. They weren't crazy detailed, but because of a couple comments / hints, I did have to drop my rating down, which was disappointing. For personal reasons, I'm really not a fan of seeing characters drinking, and these 2 characters did drink here and there. Yeah, that's just like a personal thing. Had those few parts though not been in it, and the couple offhanded comments not been in it, I probably would have given it a 3.5 or a 4, because it was a very cute and sweet book, but there was just a few little things that bumped my rating down to a 3. My next clean fiction book is a historical, and that is The Matchmaker's Lonely Heart by Nancy Campbell Allen. I actually picked up this book because I own the second book because it's about a photographer and it's a Victorian time period. Say less, I'm here for it. But I decided to read the first book so I wouldn't be lost and I would know who everyone was, because I keep jumping into the middle of series with clean fiction books because I just read the tropes that I enjoy. And then because I jumped in the middle, I am lost often and I don't know who these other people are, but I can tell there's a book about them, that kind of thing. So I didn't want that to happen with the second book because I really want to give that second book as much as a potential for me to enjoy it as possible, because Victorian photographer, again I say, 2 buzzwords right there for me. But this one is about a girl who works as a newspaper, kind of a newspaper-ish. It's more like a woman's magazine, but in that Victorian time period, so whatever you would call that, as a matchmaker. And she gets involved with this one man whose wife died under suspicious circumstances. And here comes our main guy, who is a police officer, and he knows something more happened to that first wife. And so they kind of team up to work together. It took me about 100 pages to get into it, but by the end I enjoyed it quite a bit and gave it 3.5 stars. Being a clean fiction book, I'm always a little like leery of how is a murder going to be described in this kind of book, because as Christian fiction often does in their suspense and mysteries, they don't really go over the top with details, which I appreciate. Now, there are some that do very little, and there are some that probably toe the line of what's considered normal in those genres. But for this book, I was a little concerned going into when I saw there was going to be a murder, but at the same time I was like, ooh, murder mystery. But then at the same time I was a little worried, ooh, murder mystery, you know, both sides of it. And I would say, now, I've only read one Agatha Christie book, and I say read loosely because I read like half of it, and that was years ago. So take it with a grain of salt what I'm fixing to say. But it kind of reminded me of that style. Like, not to set the bar really high for you Agatha Christie fans or anything, but that's what it reminded me of. I can't think of a Christian fiction author where the details of the body and the murder would be comparable to. I tried to rack my brain, and I couldn't really come up with one for that. But it reminded me of the Agatha Christie style in that regard. Another little side note I just have to talk about in this book is that at one point our main girl is attacked, not sexually attacked, but physically attacked, and she fights off her attacker and does most of the things I'm always screaming at main girls to do. Like, you go for the thumbs, you go for the knees, you go for the crotch. Like, come on, girls, come on. I've taken so many self-defense courses, it just really annoys me when they're just like, ah, and they're just being strangled to death or something. It's like, if you're being strangled, you pull back their thumb. If you can't get if your hands aren't free, you go for their knees or their crotch. Like, come on, y'all. So it was just so refreshing to see a girl fight and like use what she knew, those skills, to save her life. And I really, really appreciated seeing that, because y'all should, if I did a reading blog for any suspense book and I did like a page by page reaction, that would be mentioned a lot, because these girls are supposed to be trained in this, and she's not even technically trained in this. She just, like, she fights for her life, and she does it. She does it. And I was so proud of her. I was just like, this is exactly what I want to see in that kind of situation. Let's see that self-defense kick in. And I rarely see that in Christian suspense books, and it drives me batty. Okay, so little soapbox, little rant to the side there, but I really appreciate that. Content-wise, there is the murder. Let's see. I have kind of the main content listed on Goodreads, but the one thing I think that some may not really care for is that there is a fortune teller / medium character. But before you're like, Lindsay, I can't trust you anymore, hang on here. He is a farce. All the characters know it. There are a few side characters that are like, oh, what a fun party game. But the main characters are like, this guy's a con kind of thing. Like, it's okay in that regard. Like, it's definitely looked at as not real. There is definitely a connection here. Like, it's not a spiritual connection. It is a scam connection. Okay, so yeah, there you go. There also was a reverend that lies and is supporting someone who's done wrong because of their upbringing, personal connection, which, yeah, okay, so there is that. It did not paint that part in the best way. There are other different parts of little Christian things here and there. So yeah, there is those few little elements. I've got more content down below. Overall, I liked it well enough. I gave it 3.5 stars. Definitely looking forward to reading the second book though. Okay, for fantasy books, this is a series of 4 books, so I'm just going to kind of talk about them together. That is the Hidden Magi? Madge? I have no idea. M-A-G-E. How do you pronounce this word, my friends? Because Goodreads said Madge, I think, and that's just, I don't love that. I'll admit I don't love that. But this series is actually a spin-off series from Melanie Sellier's other series, which I haven't read, and I really don't have an interest on reading. But the covers of this series, they're beautiful. Oh my goodness, y'all. They are beautiful. I do really, really like these covers, and that is kind of what got me interested in them. Crown of Secrets is the first book, and I gave it 3.5 stars. That was the highest I rated any of the books of the series. The other 3 I gave 3. I really liked this series because it had a boarding school academy. Basically, that's the entire time these books are set are at this academy for 4 years. And I really like a good boarding school academy plotline. I don't know why. But I really liked that element of it, and our main girl is a princess, and she's going to this boarding school academy of their kind of enemy country. And, you know, there's political strife and tension, and I really love it when there's that political climate involved in a book, especially in a fantasy book. It did take me a couple tries to get into the first book and, like, understand what in the world was happening. But once I got in and I understood as I went, some things I felt like got a little conveniently changed as the books went on, and I've really debated on would I buy physical copies of these books, and I probably wouldn't. I have come to the conclusion because the last 2 books had a couple convenient outs for our main characters, and that was kind of disappointing to see. But overall, it was entertaining. It was a completely bingeable series. They're all out. It was entertaining. There is magic, but it's more in the sense of inherited or hereditary magic, in the sense of our main girl is the daughter of one of the most powerful magi. I don't know how to say that word. I really don't like this word because of that. So she is supposed to, like, you know, have all this great talent because her parents are 2 of, like, the top talented people, but she has nothing. So she's known for that. There's all kinds of talks and mentions and all that kind of things, and things change as the series go on as well, of course. So there are a lot of that, but it's definitely more on the, you typically have it from your bloodline, and not everybody has that. And yes, you do have to study and learn, but it's not necessarily like spells or curses or like with wands or anything like that. So I don't really know how to explain it. I tried my best in my Goodreads review on the magic content, but that's really hard for me to explain, so I tried my best. I hope it's helpful. The covers are gorgeous. It was bingeable. If you're okay with magic, you probably would be fine with it. There's people that use it for good and evil, and you see both cases of that in here. But if you don't like magic or you try to avoid that thing, probably not for you. Okay, my last 2 books. We are almost done, my friends. I feel like I'm getting a little hoarse here. But the first book is A Thieving Curse by Selena R. Gonzalez. I gave this book 4 stars. I have seen Sarah over at Sarah's Tangled Tales talk about this author and this series, specifically this book, for, I want to say years, but this book only came out in 2021, so I guess it hasn't technically been years, but it's been a few years, right? So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I was a little concerned when I got into the book. Now, this book is purely told from her perspective, and then we see a few parts, a few chapters where it's her brother's perspective, which the sibling content was great. Really, really liked the sibling content. But our main girl, okay, I'm trying to put into words. I have this book ordered, but Amazon's saying it's not going to get here till like the end of January. I don't know what's up with that. I'm very sad about that because I wish I could hold it up for y'all. But our main girl is, oh, what is her name? My mind just went blank. He's Alex. Raylan, that's her name. Raylan is our main girl, and she is a princess, and she basically has been told since a young age that you're going to go marry the crown prince of this one kingdom. Well, on her way to that kingdom, she gets separated from the group because of a freak accident, and she gets saved by this odd-looking human. And this odd-looking human is actually the real crown prince that was cursed by the uncle that stole the throne. And so he has been cursed to be a dragon. And that is when it got a little dicey for me. I was just like, he has horns and wings and a tail, and he just transformed into a dragon, like a legit dragon. So I was a little like, what in the world did I just get myself into? I was a little like, interesting. So I wasn't sure about that element at all. But I mean, he was cursed at no fault of his own. So it's not like Beauty and the Beast where like the Beast guy, Prince guy, what was his name? Adam? What's his name? Adam? Why is that sticking out? Maybe that's correct. I don't know. That's sticking out in my brain. Where like he was like a selfish jerk. it wasn't like that. He truly was just cursed because of his bloodline, and he was good though. Like elsewise, he was pretty good. I liked Alexander quite a bit, and when he wasn't a dragon, or like he was very quick with his temper because of the dragon part of his curse. So he kind of was like, I was kind of like, how are we gonna have a romance out of this, because this is getting a little dicey here for me. But things happen and conversations happen and certain events happen that made it more okay in my brain. And again, he's not cursed for like something he did. And again, things happen, so it all works out, but that ending kind of wrecked me. So Sarah, she said you have to, now I know. And she said that she just expects in fantasy books somebody's gonna die. I didn't know this rule, and now I have to be aware of this rule. I didn't know that rule. But I can see how it's true. So, yeah, overall 4 stars. Once I got into it and past the whole what in the world did I just get myself into reading, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it 4 stars. I do plan to continue the rest of the series. However, the second book is about Tristan, and he is kind of the villain's son, but a villain in his own right in this book, and I didn't like him at all. I don't think anyone did, but like everyone's like, oh, the second book's so good, Lindsay, there's redemption. I don't really know about that, y'all. Like, really didn't like him. Really didn't like him. So, I don't know about that, y'all. I'm gonna read it because I really liked the author's writing style, but I don't know about this Tristan kid, y'all. That's another thing, though, I did really like about this book was the author's writing style and like how she would give details, but not like an overwhelming amount of details. It felt like a movie in my brain. Like I could see everything happening in my brain so vividly, and I really love when that happens, especially for a fantasy book. That's how I know, like, oh, I just got sucked in. That is kind of my gauge for a fantasy book, because I typically can see that here and there, but there's certain books where it's like a 4K movie in my brain or something like that. It was good in that regard. So as soon as I finished this book, I read The Dragon Prince's Heart by Selena R. Gonzalez, which is technically book like 1.5 in the series, and it is the first third or so of A Thieving Curse, but told from the Dragon Prince Alexander's perspective. I also gave this book 4 stars. I was so invested in seeing his perspective because it was so odd to me to not have his perspective, but if we had his perspective, it would have been different, because seeing how his brain was working and what he was thinking was so satisfying after seeing the conclusion of the whole book. It was also painful in some moments too because of certain events at the end of the first book, but I really did like seeing his perspective, and it was very interesting and very well done. And I found it funny that I read both of these on my Kindle app. So the first book's on Kindle Unlimited, the second book is not, but you can actually get it free from the author's newsletter if you sign up. I didn't realize that though, and I just bought it off of Amazon, which is totally fun. I supported an author and I love that. But I was like, I'm highlighting the same exact sentences from the first book and the second book, so that was fun, but same parts even. So I was invested. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Gonna read book 2 at some point, probably here pretty soon. You'll know on Goodreads pretty quick, probably, but I liked it. I can see why there's hype around this series. It was entertaining. Magic-wise, there are mentions of the curses, and of course, because, you know, Beauty and the Beast, and then those, like, the talisman, I think that's how you pronounce talisman, that's how you say that, and then, like, the witches and whatnot, but it's always looked upon as evil and negative, so there is that element. That's really it. So yeah, I have more of the details of all the content though on Goodreads that I will link down below for y'all. And that is all the books I read in December and then one in November. I read Cloak of Scarlet in November, but these are the books I currently have physically, but I will be unhauling 4 of these. So there goes that. And then I have A Thieving Curse and the Dragon Prince's Heart, and the Highlander's Victory. I have all those on order. Those are on their way to me. Would I buy anything else? No. No, I wouldn't. I'm good with what I have. So those 3 and then these 4. I will keep these 4 and then the 3 that are coming, and I'll be unhauling these. So that is it for this video. I'd love to know if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of these? If you like fantasy and are okay with that little bit of magic kind of content that I mentioned, I would definitely suggest checking out A Thieving Curse, because that was a little addictive once I got into it. That was really fun. I know we may have different opinions, so just always say them kindly in the comments, because I appreciate kindness. We all appreciate kindness. Not just me. We all do. So if we have different opinions, that's okay. We are different readers. We have different tastes. That's okay. And then I will see y'all next time with another video. I'm not sure what my next video is going to be currently as of filming this. I have 2 potentials. It's either going to be tier ranking my Kindle Unlimited books I read, and I read a lot of those books this year, or it's going to be a reading vlog, which I will be talking about quite a few of these actually in that reading vlog. A Thieving Curse, The Dragon Prince's Heart, The Highlander's Victory, Merry Humbug Christmas. I think I talk about like 5 or 6 books in that one. I can't think of the other one, but one of those 2 will be coming out next, and I will see y'all there. But thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. I am Lindsay from the blog Books for Christian Girls at blogspot.com, where there's a new review every Monday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every other Friday. Hey, Daisy says hello and goodbye. Well, I guess goodbye. She's saying goodbye because she's already been saying hello throughout this video. Crazy Beagle. But I am also on Instagram and TikTok and Goodreads, all those many places. There is a newsletter for Books for Christian Girls, and I'll have the sign up form below if you'd like to receive emails every month. And then I think that's it. So I will see y'all next time. Have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. Bye!